Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me. And yeah, I'm back. This is a brand new What If. This is What If Deku Was Sub Zero. Shout out to my boy, later Emerus. I think that's his What If channel. That's what it's called now. He does a lot of different things on YouTube, just like me. But yeah, shout out to him for letting me have the thumbnail. I was just trying to stockpile on some ideas, and he was like, hey, have this. I was like, oh, cool, let's get it. So I was like, this is a great idea. So I'm definitely going to do it. So shout out to him. Now, with that said, if you enjoy, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. With that said, though, let's get right into the what if. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya was born in a village on the outskirts of Japan, but this village would soon become a target of one of the most notorious villains ever. This village would be basically training flat out ninjas, and they weren't too small or too big by any means. It wasn't a village that would be overwhelming in terms of how many people were on there or in there. But at the same time, they were powerful people. They knew a lot of martial arts, and they knew how to truly defend themselves. But here's the thing, there's no defending yourself when something as powerful as this comes knocking. Actually, a being with a bit of a weird face mask, a mask covering their entire head, seemingly helping him breathe for the most part, approaches the village. Izuku was just a baby at this time, but you can hear the screams of what's happening just in the small little distance. Izuku begins to cry and cry and cry as well. He begins to basically just bolster how sad he is, or just crying like a baby would normally do. And the mom, or Inko Midoriya, would grab him, pick him up, cradle him up, and also just run as fast as possible. And of course, a man that was basically Izuku's father would tell them to run as well, to not look back, just run. It doesn't matter what you hear, it doesn't matter what happens, just run. It seems like these ninja characters, or these ninja people, would be fighting off this being, and they would stand some sort of a chance. But once the quirks began to unravel, and once the powers began to surge, it seems like the whole village was mowed down. Inko Midoriya would run with her child as fast as possible, leaving everything behind, not taking a single thing. She peeks backwards to see what's happening and sees that the whole village is in flames. Tears begin to fall from her face as she continues to run, and eventually she was out of there, gone, and entering a major city, entering a major area that she knew that she would be somewhat safe. But now what does she do? She has no idea. So she decides to do the only thing she knows how, and that's to teach martial arts. Now, she would teach this martial arts extremely undercover, extremely undercover. She would even kind of rename it and do all these extra things, kind of making it seem like it's a basic martial arts. But she would label it as martial arts for basically up and coming heroes, that they could learn basic martial arts, basic ways, basic takedowns and stuff like that. And she would teach them to a large degree, and it wasn't a big practice, but it was just enough so that she could make ends meet, so that she can survive and be somewhat undercover. She doesn't know if this person who invaded her village is still going to be coming after her, or even coming after her family. So what is she supposed to do? So this is the only decision that makes sense, the only decision that makes sense for her children. I mean, seriously, if you had all of this happen and everything like this occur, laying low would feel like the only course of action. So that's what they would do. That's what all of them would do. That's what Izuku and his mother would do, would lay low. Now, Izuku wouldn't know much about their past, wouldn't know much about the village, wouldn't know much about their heritage, wouldn't know much about what they truly came from. And at the end of the day, he wouldn't learn much about it, if not anything about it, ever. Now, he would pick up a little bit of martial arts, being that, he would be around his mother quite a bit. So there's really no way else to put this. He would learn it quite quickly, just being around his mother, and also, on top of that, just the bloodline that he follows. Now, this is just the start of what he truly is. He would pick up on all of these things, and it seems like his bloodline, or the blood that flows through his body, is truly taking a hold of what he is. Now, with that said, he actually continues training extremely hard, just working hard, extremely hard, and he gets stronger and stronger throughout this time. I mean, he's just a little kid. He goes to school and stuff like that, and there is no sign of a quirk from him, and his mother kind of just dismays the idea that he's going to have a quirk. I mean, seriously, there's just no, it's not going to happen like that. He's not going to have some weird superpower, right? And frankly, their people haven't had the power that they normally had in a very long time. I mean, it's been forever, and this is what she would believe for a long time. I mean, she would teach her son martial arts, but she would have no intention of allowing him to become a hero. I mean, there would be kind of this idea of, oh yeah, maybe I can, but his mother would always tell him to just focus on what they could control right now, and all of the above, just before you go out and try to, extend yourself too far. Now, they would go to the doctors when he's younger to just check if he has a quirk, but of course, yeah, he doesn't, not at all. But he is a little bit different than your normal kid, and the doctor would even ask about this and ask why certain things in his body are just slightly different. And of course, the mother would deny it. Iko would deny it fully, and just as full as she possibly can, saying that she doesn't really know. She's not sure. Maybe that's the aftermath of not having a quirk or something like that, and the doctor would say that he's not 100% sure, in which Inko would get him out of there pretty quickly. But of course, Izuku wouldn't really know what's happening, but it would worry her that the doctor was questioning the biology, or the different biology that maybe was portrayed within Izuku, because the differences were so minor that it would take somebody that is actually looking for it to actually recognize it. But maybe the doctor doesn't really, think too far ahead of this, and even the doctor doesn't know, because they scrambled out so quickly that, he can't make his full and total breakdown or analysis of what this truly is. Now, it would take some time, but around 12 to 13 years old, Izuku would be pretty damn good at martial arts, if not one of the highest level students that his mother has. He may be a kid, but his bloodline was built for this, was built for the way of basically martial arts, and a lot of martial arts at that. They were skilled shinobi / ninja / kind of those type of fighters, so there is no doubt that they would be at that level, and there's no doubt that, well, her son would be at a prodigy-like level of martial arts, right? But one day when he is just, at school, minding his own business, he's of course getting bullied by the fact that he doesn't have a quirk. And this would kind of annoy Izuku. Come on, leave me alone. This is ridiculous. How are you going to bully me for not having a quirk? And how are you going to bully me for things I can't control? Now, Izuku's thinking logically, but of course the students, they don't care about logic. They don't care about, if it's right, if it's wrong, or anything like that. And eventually, someone by the name of Bakugo, or Katsuki Bakugo, would go to shoot an explosion at Izuku. And as the explosion is about to hit Izuku right in the face, Izuku would put his hands up. He would feel this cold sensation come over his body as ice would form and would block the blast of explosion that is going to be basically inflicted directly on his face, in which Izuku is shocked to see this, but his whole body would go chill, and he could feel the ice that he could currently create, and it seems as if there is very little restriction to what he's allowed to do. I mean, he even begins to freeze Bakugo's feet and tells him to never mess with him ever again. And Bakugo is stuck there until he blasts the ice off, but the ice is extremely durable, so it takes him a little bit to actually destroy it, at least to a large extent. Now this power would be brought up to his mother, and his mother would, not really know what he's talking about and stuff like that. But after the jig is up, she would eventually tell him that, well, it seems as if he inherited powers that are known to their, well, you could call it their tribe or maybe their clan. But that's beyond the point now. They're all gone. But these powers are one of a kind, and it allows you to utilize the powers of ice. And the ice powers that Izuku holds, it's so much more than you could possibly imagine. It's not just some basic ice powers. I mean, he has full-on control of ice, or the full-on ice manipulation, the ability to create weapons, the ability to freeze over buildings if he so chooses, or if he so chooses to inflict that much force. But on top of that, of course, he is an expert martial artist now, and he tells his mother that if this is the case, if he was gifted these powers, these rare powers, something that they haven't seen for years, generations, if not centuries, then why not allow him to become a hero? In which his mother wouldn't like the idea of him becoming a hero. I mean, no, he can't become a hero. It puts too much of a target on his back. But Izuku insists on this, saying that they don't have to, worry about money anymore. They don't have to worry about anything else. I mean, seriously, maybe he could just flat out get more attention to her dojo just from joining a hero school. Seriously. In which the mother, of course, Inko, would still shake her head and ask her son if he's willing to risk being found out, willing to risk being hurt just to be a hero. If he's willing to make the sacrifices, then she'll allow it. But the thing is, there may be a lot of repercussions that come because of this. In which Izuku asks once again, what truly happened the night that they ran away? The night that she took him and ran away. And then she breaks down a little bit, but composes herself and tells him the story of how they basically survived the extinction of their own bloodline. In which she explains that this whole masked man, this man came in and basically exterminated everybody. But luckily enough, they fended him off just long enough to where she could escape with him. And that was it. They left everything else behind. All that is left is rubble. And everything is gone. In which Izuku asks if that's true, did she go back? Did she go back and check? And she would respond that one night, yes, she did. Long after the whole battle, she went back and checked, and everybody was gone. Everybody. It's like they were defeated, they were killed, and then somebody took their body, swooped them up, and got rid of them. But it wasn't your normal getting rid of them. It looked spotless. It looked like they wanted those bodies for some reason, but she doesn't know why. But the only assumption she can make is because of the powers that he holds. In which it's been years. Tens of years, right? It's been whatever, 13, 14 years by now. So, of course, there's a chance that they're still looking, but there's also a chance that they gave up on this escapade that they had to find someone like him. Izuku looks at himself and asks what makes him so special, what makes him the person that they think he is, in which she says that they all thought that he was the next coming of Sub Zero, in which Izuku would pause for a second and then be like, who the hell is Sub Zero? In which, of course, Inko would just shake her head and would explain the history and the story of Sub Zero to him, and about that there are many of them, right? There are many versions of Sub Zero. He is not one person necessarily, but there are many versions of him, and they all thought that maybe, just maybe, he was the coming of Sub Zero, and now it seems like that's the truth, that he is truly Sub Zero. In which Izuku would be shocked to hear this. I mean, this idea that he is some mythical being, but Inko would shut this down, that it's not necessarily like he's a mythical being, but he's given and gifted powers of ice manipulation, and this should not be taken lightly. To use it to his fullest strength and advantage, do not let them down. In which Izuku, of course, would nod his head that he will never let them down, never let his ancestors or his mother down. He's going to show exactly what he's capable of, but he's going to make sure that nobody else knows of where he's come from. And of course, this would kind of make Inko happy, telling him that she just wants him to be safe. So if anybody asks, this is a quirk. His ability to use ice powers is a quirk. And on top of that, the martial arts was learned from, some stray martial artist within the cities of Japan. And it's that simple. And that's it. In which Izuku would nod his head, and he would go throughout the rest all the way up until the end of middle school with this notion. He's a late bloomer. He just got his ability to use his ice quirk. He has a quirk, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And frankly, he would actually stop getting bullied. But he would get bullied, from a couple people just because, they're salty that he has such an awesome quirk. But they would bully him because, oh, yeah, you're a late bloomer, haha, all that stuff. Some lame bully tactics that, some people do. And, of course, this wouldn't affect Izuku very much. He just doesn't care. He is just like, whatever. But this would lead them to basically the end of middle school. And once the end of middle school ensues, of course, the middle school teacher's like, hey, what do you guys want to, I know you guys want to all become heroes. So he throws out the career aptitude tests, and everybody, celebrates and stuff like that. But Izuku is just straight up locked in. He's not thinking about anything else. He's not worried about anything else. All he can think about now is becoming a hero. That this UA High School is the next step for him, and he is disciplined. That's one thing he's carried on for a long time. He may have struggled in his earlier years with studying and stuff like that, just because his mother maybe wasn't really accustomed to the cities of Japan's education. But Izuku, he is disciplined enough to figure it all out, and he's already figured it all out, and he's ready to go. So yes, he does get a little bit of backlash from Bakugo. Bakugo saying like, oh, I was going to be the only person to go to UA, blah, blah, blah. But of course he would ignore him, saying that it's whatever, like, you don't worry about it, right? In which Izuku would leave before Bakugo could even say another word, and he would begin writing in a notebook that he continues to write in about different powers he believes he can utilize, different ways he could utilize his powers, and on top of that, different ways he could utilize the martial arts and the weaponry usage that he could possibly use through his just acting skills, right? His skill of a martial artist, what weaponry and on the art of weapons that he's been learning for a while now. He wants to know which ones would be most effective. He's thought about ice daggers, ice swords, ice scythes, anything you can think of, maybe even an ice bow. It's a little impractical, but maybe something he could utilize in the future, but is not something he's fully concerned about, but it's stuff that he writes down in his journal. So he decides to take a longer way home, and as he takes that longer way home, he heads under a bridge. Now, this bridge actually has or is connected to the sewage system of Japan. And as he heads under the bridge, he would hear the rumblings below and wouldn't think much of it. Yeah, that's until something would come bursting out of the manhole cover, being that of the sludge villain. The sludge villain would come bursting out and immediately go after Izuku, telling him that he doesn't know how he got here or why he's here, but he needs his body so that he can get away from that freak, that big old freak, in which Izuku wouldn't know what he's talking about, but Izuku would immediately slide out of the tunnel of some sorts or underneath the bridge, and he would slide out of there, and he would immediately be pretty far away from the sludge villain. The sludge villain would follow the ice as he tries to get to Izuku, but Izuku would stop him immediately, disintegrating the ice on the floor, causing him to trip up a little bit, but then shooting an ice blast straight from his hands immediately at the sludge villain, slowing him down drastically, and Izuku would begin to make daggers as he throws them at the sludge villain at crucial points like his eyes. One of them would hit one of the sludge villain's eyes, scraping his eye and causing him to screech in pain. And eventually, he would hear someone else appear from behind the sludge villain with a Detroit Smash. As this Detroit Smash would ring off, Izuku would put an ice barrier in front of him as the wind from the Detroit Smash would smash into it as well, and it would blow the ice barrier back a little bit, but he would be able to stop it as it crumbles to pieces after the wind subsides. He would look up to see the one and only All Might. He would be in complete shock, but All Might would be congratulating him, saying that he did one hell of a job to stop the villain, and he's really proud of him. I mean, he did a heck of a job. I mean, All Might couldn't even catch him for the most part, but he was able to subdue him long enough so that he would get an opening, and he appreciates that. In which Izuku would kind of be taken back by who this is, because this is kind of someone he's idolized throughout the time he's been here, and idolized just full on. And frankly, a lot of people do idolize All Might, in all fairness, so I guess it does make sense. But flat out, he asked All Might for an autograph. He asked him about any questions about being a hero and stuff like that. And eventually All Might is about to leave, but Izuku grabs him by the leg, wanting to ask him one last thing. And he doesn't know how to ask it, but he grabs him, and All Might takes off, and Izuku's flying in the air, in which All Might tells him to let go, but Izuku says it's really not that simple, just to land on a building. They land on a building, and Izuku asks him, well, here's the thing, you know, there's people that don't like me and my family, you could say, and there's danger in me becoming a hero, like massive amounts. Is it still worth becoming a hero and trying to save people if that means that I'm putting myself and maybe even my family at risk? In which All Might would sit there and think for a second, and then he would tell the kid that risk is everything for a hero. Sacrificing your life for the sake of others is being a hero. And he's not sure what his circumstance is, but if he truly becomes a hero, he'll be able to protect everybody, and that includes his mother, his family, his father, whoever he's talking about. That would include them as well. Izuku would hear this and would sigh in relief just a little bit, and would look back up at All Might, and All Might would be gone. Well, sort of. All Might would turn into a smaller version of himself, and Izuku would immediately pull out a katana made of ice, saying that he's not All Might, that he better fess up who he is now or else. In which All Might would shake him off and say, no, this is, it is me. But he explains his injury and so on, and of course Izuku just evaporates his sword or breaks it and shatters it, and he would apologize for threatening him with an ice sword. In which, of course, All Might would say that it's all right. And All Might would say that he needs to go now, but it was good speaking to the kid, and he needs to leave like ASAP. So All Might leaves as Izuku basically finds his way down as well. But as he walks home or heads home, well, let's just say something unexpected actually happens. And that thing that's unexpected, well, let's just say it's the sludge villain being released from his captivity of the bottles that they stored him in. And now he currently has Bakugo. Now Izuku walks and he sees all of this happening. And he would look at Bakugo's eyes as if he's crying and screaming for help. And inside of him, he remembers all of the things that Bakugo did, all of the things that Katsuki Bakugo put him through. But then he thinks to himself, what a hero would actually do. What would a hero truly do? And that's go in without another second to think. And immediately he would skate in on ice. Heroes trying to grab him, but the heroes miss. He would immediately put out all of the fire that's going on with his ice as he sprays it down. And as the heroes see this, they see it as an opening themselves. Immediately, Izuku would fire sharp little daggers of ice toward the eyes of the sludge villain, and immediately puncturing them, allowing Bakugo to break free of the restraint of the sludge villain. He would grab Bakugo as he throws him in the air and tells him to use his explosions to push off and try to fly a little bit. Bakugo does just this, saying he already knows how to do that. Don't treat him like a baby, or don't treat him like an absolute nerd. In which Bakugo would fly off, and then Izuku would do the same, as he immediately would move away from the sludge villain, and other heroes would try to converge, but in terms of raw power, they don't really stand a chance. But this act of courage, this act of selflessness would inspire the number one hero to actually risk his own quirk and risk his time limit, frankly, transforming back into his giant form, or his All Might form, his true All Might form, and blast the sludge villain with another Detroit smash, in which that would obliterate the sludge villain. And immediately all the heroes would congratulate Bakugo for being so brave, but would lecture Izuku a little bit for what he did. But luckily he was around, because they wouldn't have been able to put out those fires as easy as he did. Izuku wouldn't really listen to much more of this, as he would just leave, wanting to not be caught too much in the paparazzi and all of that. But eventually he would be caught up by somebody, and that would be All Might. All Might would stand there and tell him that it was very impressive, more impressive than you could possibly imagine watching what he did, truly. And he says that the kid has guts, the kid has absolute strength and power, and he's impressive. And he asks him one more time that does he truly fear that him or his family may be hurt if he decides to go down the path of being a hero. In which Izuku says yes. All Might shakes his head and says that he doesn't have to give him more information. He understands. He gets where he's coming from, and he doesn't know where Izuku comes from necessarily in terms of, like place of origin, but he tells him that he wants to guarantee that he has all the capabilities, all the chances, and all of the wherewithal to truly protect the ones he loves. So he's going to give him an offer. And that offer, well, he wants him to take on the quirk of One for All. Izuku, completely shocked. What is he talking about? One for All? And All Might would explain his quirk, explain that it can be passed down, explains that he wants to give him his powers. Izuku is shocked to hear this, but he tells him that he'll take any advantage he can to make it so that his family never gets hurt again. So he puts out his hand and he shakes All Might's hand and tells him that he would love to be trained by All Might and would love to take on the quirk of One for All. All Might would nod and tell him to meet him at Dagobah Beach late at night around, 8 p.m. And they're going to get some hellish training in from night to dawn, in which Izuku says whatever needs to be done, he'll do. In which All Might would say that it looks like the kid's already in pretty good shape, so the training shouldn't be anything too difficult for him. And Izuku says that in terms of in shape, he has no idea what he's capable of, no idea how prepared he was for this moment specifically. Izuku would nod toward All Might and would leave, heading home to his mother, and would even explain the whole situation, in which she would be shocked to hear this, but would think that this would be a way for him to truly stay safe and for all of them to truly stay safe. And that's just the facts of it. And Izuku himself, well, let's just say this would start a new era for Izuku, a new chance for Izuku. His whole idea was he was going to UA, going to that entrance exam with his ice powers and pure martial arts. But with the opportunity of gaining the powers of All Might himself, the powers that he portrays, well, let's just say those powers may come in handy more than you could possibly even imagine. Because Izuku Midoriya is, or may be, the new Sub-Zero, but he will truly be the next in line for the #1 hero, or basically the passed down prodigy of what One For All is going to create him, or create of him, in which will let him and allow him to send this world, this world of heroes, into a true spiral. Because Deku, or Sub-Zero, is coming to the hero world, and he's going to be even stronger than anybody could possibly imagine. So of course he's thinking to himself, how could he save people? How could he help people? But how is he going to take down the unknown assailant that hurt and destroyed his clan when he was just a baby? But for now, this is where we're going to end off What If Deku Was Sub-Zero Part 1. If you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below. And yeah, that's all I got to say. If you enjoyed, make sure to show some love to the video. And yeah, that's really it. I hope y'all enjoyed. And I hope y'all stick around for the rest of the series. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.